The day, because as we get into the afternoon, from time to time we'll see some outbreaks of rain. Hopefully there won't be too much within that. I think light and patchy stuff for the most part, but the cloud cover is fairly constant. Top temperature this afternoon, well, this is good with a southwesterly wind, 17 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. You all right? 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and of course we've got the usual text number of 07786 206 951. If I say it quickly I can remember it. That's good. 07786 206 951. If there's something that's bothering you, something you want to say, something you want to ask, something you want to slag off, as long as you don't get me in trouble for libel and all that gubbins, because it's me this sue, on the grounds that I'm connected to the BBC and they've got a garage load of money. It's all yours, of course, but they've got it. Anyway, 07786 206 951 to do that. Subject matter is yours. Derek in Lee kicks us off with with a text that says, an unelected Prime Minister cooks up £500 billion of rescue package with our money. Nobody was asked, was it okay? The only thing we were asked by shifty politicians and shyster banks is to trust them. Yeah, right. I wonder what happened to the £8 or £9 billion profits each of the big banks made per annum for the last decade. Yes, I know. It would have been swallowed up by obscene bonuses and dividends. But whatever happened to putting a bit by? Asks Derek in Lee. Well, quite a lot of that money, of course, was lent to people to buy houses they couldn't really afford. And whilst we must chastise the banks for lending money to people who can't afford it, we must also, of course, chastise the people who were taking the money out the bank in the knowledge that they'd never, ever pay it back. You see, we're shafted by greed, aren't we, really, in the end? That's what we're all getting done by. And some of it collectively, if you like, as a society, it's our greed. But should we try and avoid talking about it? Because none of us understand what's going on anyway, do we? I certainly don't claim to do so. But there's been a bit of sneering of late, a little bit of sneering about Iceland, like it's some tin pot country. The population of Iceland is smaller than the population of London. And we've all gone poo-poo. What right have Iceland got to bring down the British banking system? Well, they're not doing, of course. What right have Iceland got to make us all pay more council tax, which is what we're apparently going to do as a result of this £1 billion worth of money that's sealed away in an Icelandic bank vault that belongs to a variety of councils? Well, let me remind you something about Iceland you've possibly forgotten. There again, you might not have even been born at the time. But we almost went to war with Iceland 30 years ago. Yeah, do you remember? We did. 25 years ago, really. We almost went to war over fish. They were called the Cod Wars. 1975/6. Iceland decided that it would, if you like, proclaim authority over the ocean up to 200 miles for its coast. You remember? It's all coming back to you now, isn't it? Do you remember it? Tell me about it. Do you remember the Cod Wars? Yeah. Iceland said, I think the boundary at the time, and I don't know what it was, maybe you'll know, I think it might have been 40 miles, it might have been 80, I don't know why those two numbers stick in my head, but it was tradition that a country had what we might call domain, 50 miles or thereabouts out to sea. I think it was 40, but I do concede it might have been 80, but it doesn't matter for the effect. And then Iceland were a bit worried that cod stocks were going low. Of course, we're still worried about cod stocks going low, but there you are. And Iceland's a bit worried about their cod stocks going low in there, because cod like to live in cold water. And they've got plenty of that round Iceland. So Iceland decided that all the cod would be theirs. And they did it by moving the boundary, the sea boundary, to 200 miles off the coastline. Now, a number of other countries did it as well. And frankly, we've done much the same thing with the Falklands. But our government got right uppity. What eventually started to happen was Icelandic Coast Guard vessels were cutting the trawler nets of British trawlers. So the British government sent out gunboats and shots were fired, not many, and they were, if you can use the word only in a sentence like this, they were only rifle shots. But it's true. There were rifle shots fired at British trawlermen and even, I think, a British man of war. And this went on. It's true, the General Secretary of NATO had to get involved and negotiate a settlement. It was extraordinary. So when we sit here sneering about this piddling little freezing cold country in the middle of nowhere where they don't allow the sale of beer and they all talk a strange wordy type language, just remember, they took us to the brink of war. Extraordinary, I know. And it was just 30 years ago. This was pre-Falklands. Oh, yes. We were almost at war. No, it wasn't. It was post-Falklands. We were almost at war with Iceland. Is Gordon Brown going to be sending the gunboats? No. Why? Because they're all in warm water at the moment.
Caffeinated conversation with Heather Stott and friends.
What was it like being part of this very professional machine that is TV?
Oh, man, it's not easy. Waiting in the cold around for hours on end.
I'm sorry, but I'm not buying that. Because you pretend for a living, that's what you do. Don't tell me that dressing up and be on the telly is hard work. Do you find that the four of you are honest? Yeah, I think so. Are you? Yeah. Why are you laughing, Graham?
When you said about being honest, she's an estate agent.
No, I don't lie. I'm just very economical with the truth. That's me. Do you like that?
Back on Monday morning from 9 on BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. You're right. We travelled back a bit then, didn't we? We got the light going. Yes, the Cod Wars indeed. Sean in Southport. Hiya, Sean.
Hiya. Morning, Alan.
What can we do for you?
I'm after some information regarding St James's Hall in Manchester from 1902 to 1909. St James's Hall was taken over, or part of it was taken over by the post office at that time. The postmaster was John Phillips.
Yeah.
The reason why it was taken, they were doing it was that they did Christmas card deliveries on Christmas Day. And basically what I'm after is if somebody out there has got any information, paper cuttings or even postcards of the post office at that time.
Good heavens.
I've been to the library on Wednesday. And
the library in Manchester. You're in Southport. Yeah. You've been to the library in Manchester?
In Oxford Street, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've found quite a bit out, but the dates between 1902 and 1909 I haven't come up with anything.
And when you say St James's Hall, what at the time was St James's Hall?
St James's Hall was a big hall which used to have exhibitions and different speakers there, government speakers. Randolph Churchill, Sir Randolph Churchill done a special, speaking thing there. They used to do all sorts of St James's Hall. It was knocked down shortly after 1909.
Right, well, a bit before even my time, but
well, certainly before my time. Yes.
And so it was just an event hall. Now you say the post office took it over.
They obviously took part of it over.
Right, so they borrowed it, if you like.
That's it, and they done. John Phillips, who was the postmaster at that time, had this idea for people to go in, take the Christmas cards in there, and they would be delivered on Christmas Day, which was a special thing, obviously, at that time.
Indeed, yeah.
So basically, all I'm after is something around that time, maybe a photograph of the hall with postmen coming out, or postcards or something like that.
Right, well, you never know. Possibly they exist. Are you aware that they exist, or are you just punting to see, A, if they exist, and B...
They have. I've picked some photographs up from...
So you're aware that they exist,
Well, something. There must be something, because it was a special...
And whereabouts was it? Where was it?
St James's Hall was in Oxford Street.
Right. So
near the library in Oxford Street.
Right, so...
if you're looking from the library on Oxford Street down, it was to the right. just on the corner there. There's a McDonald's there now.
Yeah,
I went
indeed,
there. I went there on Wednesday, first time. I got the train from Southport and I came off and I went.
Well, I don't suppose anyone will be alive that remembers it because it was all that time ago.
There may be somebody's grandfather or someone that worked, in the post office.
You never know. Well, let us see.
You never know.
Sean wants to know of anything, more or less anything, related to St James's Hall in Oxford Street, which is a continuation of Oxford Road, as everybody knows, but it's often mixed up. But Oxford Street in Manchester, do you know anything of it? Have you got photographs of it? There are loads of old photographs of that era, but whether there's any that include that, heaven forfend, I've no idea. But there you are. All right, mate, you never know. We've got your number if anybody has. I think it's a long shot, but if anybody has, we'll let you know.
Yes, it is, Alan. But thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed. Bye.
It's part of why we exist. It's just gone 12:15 on BBC Radio Manchester. Darren in Warrington said, it's turning into one of them days, and we've no problem with that. But I was just wondering if you know anyone that has Blu-ray, and if it's any good and worth getting. I don't know. Don't look at me. It's too technical for me. Or should I just stick to normal DVDs? I don't know. Certainly, I read somewhere, and this is it. This is as good as my knowledge gets. I read somewhere that Blu-ray isn't really much point unless you've got a digital telly and you've got one of them HD jobbies, which it turns out I have. Without an HD telly, you're probably stuffed. But I've no idea. I've never seen one. They have them now in video shops, don't they? You go into... Well, they don't call them video shops either, do they? But if you go into, like, the big ones, they have... like we used to get... What was it now? We used to get Betamax and the other one. And the shops had both, and then the Betamax slowly disappeared, and we were left with the other one, which is VCR. Well, now when you go into... I've not been into a video rental shop for ages, but if you go into the big ones, like Blockbusters and that, now they have the ordinary DVDs and the Blu-ray. Are they any good? I have no idea. No idea at all. But, there you are. You see, I'm getting information already. Blu-ray needs HD TV and an HDMI connection. So there you are. I bet you know what that means. Yeah, and good on you. Well, thank you to Steve for that. The Cod War was pre-Falklands. That's Joe in a taxi. Hi, Alan. Had to go to the bank this morning. Just as I finished my transaction, I said to the cashier, "Is there anything else I can do for you today?" Right, and how did that go down? Anonymous says, I wonder what the stance of councils would be if individuals or businesses who'd lost money in a similar manner recouped their loss by non-payment of council tax. I think it wouldn't be good, is all I can say. It wouldn't be by any stretch of the imagination good. I think you would go to jail eventually. Oh, here we go. HDMI is like a SCART lead, but it's digital. Okay, well, thank you for that. Obviously, I'm none the wiser. Oh, here we go. Malcolm in Middleton. I did 2 tours of duty on HMS Undine, or Undine, however you say it, Undine, I'll go with, in the late 1950s, in the first Cod War. There was a ship had been cutting trawls of our trawlers, so we had to intervene. Yeah, there were 3 Cod Wars. 3, well, there might have been more, but they're the only ones I know. But there were 3 Cod Wars. There was the one that I remember, which I've just been told was pre-Falklands, so that's fair enough. And then there was one... there was one in the 50s. The first one occurred in 1958. I were only 10. When they first extended their fishing limits for 4 miles to 12. Oh, here we go. The second one was in 72-73 when Iceland extended its limit to 50 miles. So I said it was either 40 or 80. I was completely wrong. It was 50. And when I said it was about 50, I was dead right. But when I was actually telling you which one I thought it was, I was wrong. And that was in 1973. And then 75-76, the third Cod War. So there you are. It seems we've been looking for a fight with we've been looking for a fight with Iceland for ages. And maybe now they've stolen something from the government, because what the Cod Wars did was it completely goosed Fleetwood. Fleetwood was finished. Fleetwood used to be one of the main ports for fishing cod off the Icelandic coast, because it's on that side, isn't it? You know, up there, out, but just dodge around the top of Ireland, you're halfway there. Fantastic. And then, of course, we lost the right to fish cod in those areas, because eventually it was presented as a victory or a dépochement or whatever they call it, but we got stuffed. And eventually we stopped fishing cod there, and they shut Fleetwood. I mean, Fleetwood's still open, but there ain't no trawlers. None to speak of, anyway. There you are. It's a little history lesson. A little history lesson. 20 past 12 as well, which is not history, but now, the news headlines. Lorraine O'Kane.
A High Court judge has dismissed a claim by the family of a man from Cheshire shot by police that the investigation into his death was unlawful. They say officers should have been questioned immediately after Mark Saunders, a lawyer from Alderley Edge, was shot in Chelsea. Billions of pounds has been wiped off the value of shares in London and around the world amid more uncertainty about the global economy. At one point, the FTSE was down 10% below 4,000 for the first time in 5 years. And the Ministry of Defence Police are investigating the loss of a computer hard drive which may contain the details of 100,000 members of the armed forces. A company that was working for the government EDS has confirmed they're unable to account for the device, which was being held in a secure location. Manchester's weather, a cloudy day with outbreaks of light rain, a high of 17 Celsius.
Wasn't that secure, was it?
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
An earlier broken down tram means delays up to 15 minutes are now possible between Altrincham, Eccles and Manchester City Centre. Now the broken down tram has been moved, but as I say, delays are to be expected still. And now to the M6, and southbound traffic still slow between the Orrell interchange at junction 26 and 25 at Bryn. There's some debris on the carriageway that's yet to be removed, so watch out for that. And now to Knutsford, and a multi-vehicle accident's closed Chester Road. That's the A556 between Northwich Road and Manchester Road. 6 vehicles collided in the Plumley area, so the police have closed the road from Knutsford to Lostock Grayling. And don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Carla Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Right, people are now sending me the jokes that were knocking about at the time. Yes, the Cod Wars. A few sailors got assaulted and 2 trawlers got battered. Yeah. Well, no, that's what they said, that storm in a teacup, and all them gags went on at the time. They weren't funny then, and they're not funny now, but I'm glad you remembered them. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And you can text, of course, 07786 206 951. The subject matter is yours to choose. By all means do. And are you concerned, are you going around the house as we speak, disconnecting your energy-saving light bulbs? I'm not sure I want them. I've never been keen on them. I've said from the beginning they don't give off much light. Now it turns out that whilst you can't see where you're going, at least your face is being burnt red as you sit there reading a book. Apparently, no, it's in the paper today, so it must be true. And it's in all the papers, so it must be very, very true. But apparently, the energy-saving light bulbs that we've all been told to buy, and frankly, some of us have been given. I was given 4 by the local electricity thingamajig. But they could leave you red-faced. That's what they're saying. They're being foisted on us. That's the Daily Mail word, not mine, but it's hard to disagree with it. They're being foisted on us as a way of saving energy. But it seems some eco-friendly light bulbs may not be as good for us as we thought. According to government scientists, many of the bulbs emit more than the guideline rate of harmful ultraviolet radiation. The researchers say some energy-saving fluorescent bulbs, which will be compulsory in British homes by 2011, can cause reddening of the skin if it's used for long periods of time close to the body. So thousands of workers, such as jewellery makers who work with their hands and use lamps at close quarters, could be affected. There's no risk of skin cancer, they say. Hey, you know what I say about scientists? They're telling you now there's no risk of skin cancer. Well, wait a decade when you've all come out in spots and we'll see. At the exposure levels we're talking about, the worst effect that we believe there is as a result of our investigation is that people could have some short-time reddening of their skin. Hey, but at least your bank account will stay in the red. Yeah, yes, I know, it wasn't funny. Ricky in Preston, I just heard your inquiry about Blu-ray. Being an IT technician, I'll answer that question. To make the most of the Blu-ray, besides the HDMI, High Definition Multimedia Interface, and the HD, High Definition requirements, some of your callers have already mentioned. If your caller is thinking of fitting one to his computer, which will most probably have a plain DVD-ROM player, then he will need, at the very least, a dual-core processor computer with bags of system memory, i.e. RAM. Blu-ray, stop it. Blu-ray DVD computer drives are expensive, as are the discs. But the visual and oral quality is far better than ordinary DVDs. I hope this helps, he says. Oh, God, yes. It helped immensely. Indeed, it helped me primarily by reminding me that I know very little about computers, and what I do know often appears to be too much. Hi, Mr. B. I listen to your programme with my dictionary by my side, and Undine, or whatever that word is pronounced, or however that word is pronounced, appears to be a water spirit. Regards, D.H. You remember it was the name of the vessel that our Middleton chaps served on in the Cold Wars. No, not the Cold Wars, the I suppose they were Cold Wars. The Cod Wars. It's an easy mistake to make. In the Cod Wars, Undine. Does anybody know the pronunciation? It's no, either send it to me, phonetically written, or indeed phone me up and tell me how the hell you pronounce it, because I don't know. Old sailors will know, of course. Kath in Droylsden. Hiya, Kath.
Hello there, Alan. How are you?
I'm very well, I think.
Good. I have a little bee in my bonnet. And do you know what it's about?
I've no idea.
On a Thursday evening, my husband and myself, we watch Question Time. We call it the comedy show.
Oh, dear.
Because they always make me laugh. And we watch the programme which follows, and it's called This Week. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
No.
With Michael Portillo and Diane.
No.
Anyway, what makes me laugh about her is the fact that she is forever looking up at the ceiling during every
Is
question.
she Diane who?
Diane, she's a politician.
Oh, right. Oh, is it Diane Abbott?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yes. I can place the programme now. I've never watched it, yeah.
Yeah, she's forever, ever looking up at the ceiling. And it's so distracting. And I wondered if all the answers to the questions were up there. Because they say, oh, here she goes again, look at her, and her eyes. Because she's a nice-looking lady, and she's a black lady.
She is, yeah.
And her eyes are so white that they frighten me when they're all over the place,
but
up at the ceiling.
She's looking for inspiration. People do that. I don't know how. Maybe some psychologist will come on and tell us, but people do. They look upwards when they're looking for inspiration.
But it gives me the impression she's not confident at all.
Well, yeah, she might not be. I don't know. I've not seen it. But my experience of Diane Abbott is nil. But my experience of reading about her in the newspapers and seeing her on bulletins and the like, I don't think confidence is one of the things she's
lacking.
She's lacking. No, I think she's plenty of confidence. So I suspect it's
embarrassment. Would it be?
Well, it might be embarrassment. No, I think she's almost certainly. People do it. She's almost certainly looking for inspiration.
Well, she won't find it on the ceiling.
Well, she won't, but did you never hear the teacher say it at school? You won't find the answers up there, you know.
That's true, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what they're relating to.
I don't know.
That's what they do. Oh, I don't know. In fact, I'm doing it now. I'm just seeing myself do it. Oh, I don't know. You know, you do.
But to watch somebody on the television doing it constantly...
that must be annoying.
Anyway, I got rid of that off my chest.
All right. Well, I'm glad you did. Why do you call Question Time a comedy show?
Well, they just make me laugh.
Are they making you laugh? Because my mother said, "Don't make me laugh," and she didn't mean I was being quite humorous when she said it.
I think that they think we're all daft and we just take in everything that they say, and that they're like comedians, you know. I just find them.
Do you like it now that they've introduced a person who's not a politician?
No.
You don't?
It depends who it is.
Well, yes, obviously, of course it does.
I
mean, like Billy Bragg on
Piers Morgan.
Oh, well, he's funny.
I won't watch it if he's on it.
Will you not?
No.
Do you not like him?
I don't like him at all. I don't like him on X Factor or anything like that. I do not like him.
Oh, he's a big star now.
He is. He is. Yeah. Jobs for the boys, isn't
Jobs
it?
for the boys, indeed. He had to... Didn't he get sacked from the Daily Mirror?
He did.
The allegation was that he had his hand in the what do they call it? The insider trading till.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he said he never, so I believe him. Have a good day.
There's one or two on it. I would watch them, but I'm not. I'm not keen on what they say and their response. You know, I think. No.
All right.
But I do enjoy it.
That's all we can ask. That's all we can ask of anything we shove out, is that someone at least enjoys it, apart from us. Have a good day, Kath.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers,
Bye.
Well, she can't stand Piers Morgan. She's not alone in that, I suspect. There'll be a few that don't like him, but he gets ever more popular. And she doesn't like the way Diane Abbott looks at it. But I'm not wrong, am I? They do that. People do that. When you ask them a challenging question, if you like, they look up at the ceiling. Malcolm in Middleton. Hiya, Malcolm.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Hiya.
You was asking about the Undine. That's how you.
The Undine.
Undine, HMS Undine.
Undine makes it sound like somebody's missed their tea.
Yeah, and it is a water nymph, like that other chap said.
Oh, that's where the name comes from.
Yeah, HMS Undine. I did 2 tours up there. One at Christmas time and all. We used to pick the trawlers up from Hull. And then escort them up to Iceland, and then just escort them while there was fishing. We used to escort, because the Thor and the Odin, which was the Icelandic gunboats, they used to cut the trawls. You see,
they did, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, which was quite dangerous for the chaps on the trawlers. You know,
it can sink them, can't it?
Oh, it can. Yeah, and it can. I saw one guy one time. I was just on the upper deck loafing, not doing anything, and there were a trawl snapped and took the winchman's head off.
Crikey!
His went over the side, and we took the body in the sick bay. But so it was quite dangerous at times.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't exactly World War II, but
no, it wasn't.
But there was danger, and I mean you were in the. I think you said earlier you were in the first 2.
Yeah.
And then there was the third one in the later 70s.
Yeah, I was in the 50s one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. In those days, because I read a little bit of history off the internet just a few moments ago, they'd extended the boundary from, I think it was 12 to 20 miles, or 6 to 12, or whatever. I mean, you're damn near running against the coast, aren't you? What I didn't understand in the little potted history I read, that in the third lot, as it may end up being called, the British ships, your ships, had wooden bows fitted.
Yes, so I don't know a lot about that one, because I'd left the Navy then.
Yeah.
But if they was going to do any ramming, but you wouldn't really do any ramming up there, because you only had about 4 minutes to survive in them mortars.
Well, yeah, if you go in,
if you went in, that was it. And us in the 50s, we didn't have the lifeboats like they've got now, and the life jackets and life preservers, and they gave us about 4 minutes if we went over the side, so we avoided that at all costs.
Well, always strikes me as the one thing. They don't even ask you if you can swim when you join the Navy, do they?
No, they don't. No, I couldn't swim when I joined the Navy.
Because one of the things they say is, well, we're hoping you don't go in the water.
Yeah. Oh no, what they do, we had a bloke with us in our class when I first joined. I joined as a boy, and they all said, who can swim and who can't swim, and I put my hand up, can't swim, like, so they put you over there, and this is at the Baths, like, in HMS Raleigh I was at. And this guy...
That's the training, that's the land base, isn't it?
Yeah, down in Plymouth.
Yeah.
This guy...
Just as an aside, I was in the Army, and I served for a little while at a place called HMS Flowerdown.
Oh, where's that?
Well, it was in Winchester. It's not a boat at all. But do go on. I think they were trying to trick someone that the Navy was bigger than it was. So we had a thing called, I've probably just broken the Official Secrets Act, but it's called HMS Flowerdown.
Right.
It was 30 miles from the sea. Anyway, it's a great big field. Go on anyway. I'm sorry.
This guy, I wouldn't like to say, but I mean, I shouldn't say it really, but he was an Irish chappie, a nice chappie and everything, you know, nice lad like, but they said who can swim and who can't swim, and he went with the swimmers, you see, so they chucked them all in at the deep end, but they had PTIs all the way around the baths with poles, and this guy just sank to the bottom. And he said, well, why did you tell us you couldn't swim? He said, well, I didn't like to be, ashamed or something like that. Sank right to the bottom.
That'll learn him. Deary me, well, good on you.
But what that was for was you had to swim away from the ship in whatever your working gear. I was in the engine room, you see, so I had a boiler suit on. So eventually they train you to swim that far away when the ship's going down, you see.
Deary me. And did you get to see any of the nasty stuff? I mean, I know, as we say, it wasn't the same. Our skipper at the time
he was a medal hunter.
Oh,
and we was in Cyprus. He just missed Suez, and we was in Cyprus. And I was on the naval patrol. I didn't want to be, like, you know, on this when the Iorka terrorists were
we remember that. Well, we've read about them. Yes,
around the murder mile and everything. And we were all in a jeep. Basically, we were just looking for our ship's company, you know, what we're ashore. And this ping side of jeep like an hour driver set off before none of this heroics are out like that, you know, round the first corner and coming around this next corner were a big tank, so we didn't know what to do. So we all jumped off.
You jumped off?
Yeah.
If you want the jeep, you can have it, but I'm going to my mum's.
We all jumped off.
Good on you. It strikes me as being an eminently sensible policy, if you ask me.
Yes, none of this heroics are out like that. I were an engineer, me, I weren't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cemetery's full of heroes. Have a good day, Malcolm.
Thanks, Alan. Nice talking to you.
And
bye.
DH says that his trusty dictionary pronounces undine as andine. But that's probably from someone who says underwear. Well, you know the sort I mean. And I was wondering, Tufty in Runcorn, go away. Tufty in Runcorn, I was trying to come up with the pronunciation, and we were talking about the cod wars. And Tufty in Runcorn said the word is pronounced cod. Thank you for that. David in St Helens. Hiya, David.
Hi, Alan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Alan, I don't know if you could help us or any of your listeners there. Sorry to go on about this credit crunch and whatever. I bet people are bored to death with it and God knows what. But just on qualification, you know, the Prime Minister of Gordon Brown, he sort of keeps mentioning safeguarding your money's 35,000. I think, correct me now, it's 50,000.
Yes, it's gone up.
But he always mentions banks. He only mentions safeguarded with banks. And he's never said building societies. So is that a different entity or?
Yes, it is a different entity. If your building society is still a building society,
yes,
and not a building society that has become a bank.
Right.
There are a number of them. There's one called the Manchester Building Society. There's the Cheshire Building Society. There are a few that are still out there.
Right.
If it's still a building society, it's what's known as a mutual organisation.
Okay.
Now, in rough terms, a mutual organisation can only spend the money that it gets in.
Right.
So it will not have gone into all these horrendous loans. One of the reasons the building societies wanted to become banks was because it would free them up of all this cumbersome regulation that was, in their view, holding them back from making massive profits.
Hence
but of course,
Northern Rock.
Hence Northern Rock. Northern Rock, I used to do voiceovers for Northern Rock years and years ago. It was a building society. It was a mutual. And when they demutualised, that's what it was called, all the people who owned it, all its customers, whether they were mortgage customers or whether indeed they were depositors, they were all given compensation for losing their share of the business. Do you remember those wonderful checks?
Yes, I do.
And so they demutualised. Now what they did was they demutualised, thus shedding the responsibility to behave like a building society, and they could now make massive profits as a bank. But as we've just learned, they could also make massive losses. And so that happened. Now, if you're with a building society, then I think you still get the protection that you've referred to, but there's less likelihood of you needing it, because although building society regulations have changed slightly, they are still considerably more controlled than our banks.
Really?
So
it just... You just wonder what's next round the corner, because every day is a different day as the market, opens, and you think, what's next? And from me me and my wife, we've always had a building society, never been sort of, I don't know, savers in banks. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. It's just our old tradition. But you're just wondering, waiting, is it going to be such a building society's gone bump now and such, and because I don't know. I mean, my philosophy of building societies, although we save with them, is primarily mortgages. And you will look at the market.
But if you think about it, with mortgages, the only thing they can do
people
with
mortgages, people are not paying them.
Well, people are not paying them, but the only money they've got to give out mortgages is the money they've got in, and so they're also about you investing in them and the like. All right.
Thanks very much,
Good
Alan.
on you, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, bye-bye.
David with a question about building societies and high finance, and he says many people are fed up of it. Well, they are, but we do learn that it's not all bad news. One of the newspapers today said, what you wake up wondering what's going to happen. Well, the thing that's going to happen, apparently, is that food is going down in price, as indeed is petrol, and we will all dance on the roof and sing. It's 18 minutes to 1 o'clock on BBC Radio Manchester. Mairead Kane has the headlines.
Fulton Council's reassuring council taxpayers their bill won't go up despite the authority having £6 million in a failed Icelandic bank. The High Court's dismissed a claim by the family of a lawyer from Cheshire shut down by police that the investigation into his death was unlawful. Mark Saunders, who was from Alderley Edge, was killed after he started shooting at his neighbours from the flat in Chelsea in May. And a 20-year-old man's fighting for his life in hospital after a brawl outside a nightclub in Didsbury in the early hours of this morning. It happened at Fridays on Palatine Road. A 34-year-old man's been arrested. Manchester's weather, a cloudy day with outbreaks of light rain, a high of 17 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
If you're travelling through the Knutsford area, Chester Road on the A556 closed off at the moment between Northwich Road and Manchester Road because of a multi-vehicle accident involving 6 vehicles in the Plumley area. The police have closed the road from Knutsford to Lostock Grayland. That's also causing traffic to queue on a number of nearby routes. For instance, the A50 King Edward Road around Gaskell Avenue looking extremely busy at the moment. And if you're using the M6, watch out for slow-moving traffic between 26 Orrell and 25 Bryn after an accident happened earlier this morning involving 2 vehicles. And if you're using the trams, 15-minute delays are still possible on Altrincham and Eccles services heading into Manchester City Centre because of an earlier broken down tram. Don't forget, if you can update me further though this afternoon, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, not good news for Sale Sharks this afternoon. Already without Sean Cox and Sebastian Bruno, Matthew Tate has joined Andrew Sheridan in missing their opening Heineken Cup game at Claremont tomorrow. Tate has a hamstring problem, Sheridan has an arm injury, and the Sharks say Charlie Hodgson will start the game on the bench. That's with Richard Wigglesworth taking his place at fly half. Well, this man can lighten the mood. Sales Director of Rugby Philippe Saint-André believes it won't just be the rugby fans who'll be interested about his return to his former club.
I played there for 9 years. I had the pub, restaurant, a discotheque there. 1,000 people each night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So a lot of people meet there and are married there. So in the town, everybody came to drink in my bar or in my restaurant. So it's for this, and it's a big interest, I think. But the best present can be if we can beat them.
The legend that is Philippe Saint-André. Johnny Wilkinson's revealed he's facing another 5 months on rehab after dislocating his knee 10 days ago. The England fly half is ruled out of next year's Six Nations and will be a major doubt for the Summer Lions tour. Welsh centre Gavin Henson won't appear for the Ospreys in their first 2 Heineken Cup games. He's been banned for internal disciplinary reasons. Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand will captain England for tomorrow's World Cup qualifier against Kazakhstan at Wembley. John Terry has now been ruled out with that back injury. Matthew Upson, Jolyon Lescott and Wes Brown are all in contention to fill Terry's place in central defence. Manchester City goalkeeper Joe Hart is set to start for England under-21s this evening against Wales at Ninian Park. Stuart Pearce's role as under-21 coach will be reviewed after next summer's finals in Sweden, and the former City boss knows his job is on the line during tonight's tie.
That's a question for myself and obviously my employees. You know, I was employed to do a job, get this team to the championships next summer, and to the best of my ability I'll try to do so. Because I love the job that I do, and because I love the team and the crest that's on my chest.
Well, with the internationals taking place, the weekend's football is dominated by the Football League. Tonight, Rochdale are at Lincoln, knowing that a win will move them up to 7th. Dale boss Keith Hill has been keeping an eye on the opposition.
They're a good footballing side. They're playing very similar to a lot of teams in our league now, with 3 midfield players, 2 wide strikers and a central striker, whether that's home or away. So they get a lot of possession of the ball. They're very offensive. They do like scoring off set plays, which they're very dangerous because they're a big side. You know, it should be a good game.
We'll have coverage of Dale's game at Lincoln in the all-new Manchester Sports tonight from 7 o'clock. Stockport go to Southend tomorrow, but their midfielder Anthony Pilkington says he can't quite believe he's been called into the Republic of Ireland under-21 squad. The 20-year-old who was playing non-league football 2 years ago was named in Don Given's side to face Lithuania next week.
2 years ago I was sat in classrooms learning how to be a football coach, so yeah, it has been a big rise and some big steps taken very quickly. I didn't expect to be maybe playing as high in the league as I am right now, so yeah, I'm sure Mum and Dad will be honoured and surprised.
Bury will be hoping for another big home crowd when they face Exeter at Gig Lane tomorrow. Over 3,500 turned up for their last home league game, and goalkeeper Wayne Brown thinks attendances can get even higher.
I think the club have been indulgent for a few years, and if we could keep it going, and maybe we might even break to 4, maybe even 5 if we were being optimistic. So everything about this football club is just friendly, and they're turning into winners now, so it's just the main thing.
Well, on Sunday, Oldham host Hereford. One of their more senior players thinks they won't know until the festive period how realistic their chances of promotion are. Striker Lee Hughes believes the Christmas and New Year fixtures will separate the hopefuls from the real contenders.
The best time to look at this league is, I say, Christmas. Christmas starts taking its toll where you're going to be at the end of the season. Then you need a good run straight after, like January. Right. And hopefully that's when I say that you'll know whereabouts you're going to be.
Well, tonight there's a Rugby League World Cup warm-up international between England and Wales at Doncaster. There's commentary here from 7. Lewis Hamilton was fastest in the first session for Sunday's Japanese Grand Prix and 3rd fastest in the second session. Hamilton declared he was very happy with his performance and the car was a very competitive one. And finally, at close on day 2 of the first test, India are 68 without loss in reply to Australia's first innings total of 430 in Bangalore.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Well, we'll keep you right up to date with Rochdale's trip to Lincoln in League 2 and this commentary from Doncaster on the Rugby League International between England and Wales tonight from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hi, diddly-do. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. Text number 07786 206 951. Well, we've dabbled in history. We've done a bit of that. We've done a bit of IT. What would you do? We're just ordinary people. We're not financiers. Well, I speak for me, really. I've no right to speak for you. Maybe you are a financier. But given what's going on in the investment market at the minute, let's just say that on Saturday you win 10,000 quid. It's a lot of money, 10,000 quid on the lottery. What would you do with it? What would you do with it? I mean, if you're going to say, well, I'd spend it on wine, women and song, well, all right. I wouldn't blame you by half. But 10,000 quid, what would you do with it? Because the shares have plummeted again this morning. So if you bought shares with it, your 10,000 quid would be worth 8,000 quid. And presumably, if it carries on as it is by the end of next week, it'll be worth 5,000 quid. What would you do with it? If somebody said, well, there you are, you won 10,000 quid on the lottery, you don't want to forfeit it, you don't want to just waste it, what would you do with it? Or is wasting it the best idea? Is having a holiday in, I don't know, New York or something? Is that a better use of it, given that it's only going to get smaller anyway? It's interesting. I mean, are there any independent financial advisors knocking about listening? Because they've got no work, have they? It's not as if they're going to be advising people on what to do with their money. Nobody's got any, so they'll all be on the dole. So if there's an independent financial advisor on his way to the dole office, what would you do with 10 grand if you won it on the lottery on Saturday? I'd love to know. 0161 228 2255. I'm begging if I know what I'd do with it. Probably have a week off and go and have an holiday somewhere, a really, really good holiday, and blow the lot. Because what's the point of saving it? To give it to the banks, bunch of clowns. Dave in Droylsden. Hiya, Dave.
Hi, Alan, how are you?
I'm all right, I think.
To do the story that was in the evening news last night.
Go on.
And the headlines are, the credit crunch is to blame me parking in a disabled spot.
Oh, I saw that story, yes.
Now, after reading it, it's getting to me, Alan. I mean, there's a gentleman in it who works for the police. Shouldn't he be sacked?
Well, if he was a copper, he'd be sacked. Well, he wouldn't. He'd be retired on a pension, but that's the nearest you get to getting sacked in the cops. But working for the police, they can't... Your employer can't sack you for... Or it's difficult to sack you for a minor
He has done an offence, hasn't he?
Well, yes, he has, but it's a minor one, so...
Right.
I'm not sure they can. They might, yeah. They might discipline him, yeah. Yeah.
He was just getting to me over that one.
It was the restaurant owner I sort of took exception to.
BMW.
Yeah.
She doesn't get any money, that's why she's driving a BMW.
Well, a lot of people driving BMWs haven't got any money. Let's not name her or her restaurant, because why should she get punished more than the other two? But the story was this, wasn't it? It was the police mounted a sort of investigation into the misuse of what we call disabled cards, the parking facility to the disabled. And this restaurateur, this Manchester restaurateur...
She found it, didn't she?
Yeah, well, that's what she says. She says she found it. I mean, I'm not suggesting she didn't found it, but there is a market in these things. There are people that buy and sell them. Yeah. And you can buy them illicitly, obviously, but you can buy them for a few £100. I'm not suggesting she did that. But she was one that was issued by one of the London councils. She said she found it on a petrol station forecourt. Didn't use it for ages, but then used it, if I remember the evidence presented, 2 consecutive days to park on a disabled bay or to park where it would normally be illegal unless you had a disabled sticker.
Yeah, well, this gentleman actually used his mother-in-law's.
He did, yes.
So really, I just find it so offending that he actually works for the police, he's committed a crime, and he's probably still got his job.
Maybe so, yeah. Maybe so.
If even going back to the one the policeman who's been either sacked or been asked to step down when he wore a BMP badge.
Yes.
I mean, to tell you the truth, I think this other gentleman has done worse because he's actually fraud.
Well, fraud's a strong word.
Well,
we can't punish people on the basis of they might have done other things. We can only punish them on the basis of what we found them guilty of. Although the other's quite tempting.
I mean, if you looked at his picture in the paper, he does look like a criminal, even though he works for the police.
Well, we possibly all do in the end.
Yeah.
But all I can say is that I found the explanation. The trouble is, when you go into court, you've got to come up with something to explain it, haven't you? If you just go and don't explain it, the magistrates are going to think you don't give a damn.
I mean, if I was a magistrate, I looked at him, he looks guilty straight away, doesn't he? Anyway, thanks very much.
I think they're trained to avoid that kind of reaction.
Thanks very much.
It's a pleasure. 0161 228 2255. I referred to it yesterday and said that the woman was a slimy cow, and nothing's happened to change my mind. But she found, this is the story, she found a blue badge on a forecourt, a petrol station forecourt in London. And she picked it up. Now, if I find something on a forecourt, I hand it in. But hey, I'm not a slimy cow. Anyway, the slimy cow put it in the car, then claims that she didn't use it for ages. But then because finances got tight, she, at least one occasion, parked her BMW in a place that was illegal to park unless one displayed a card, and put the card on. Just thought, well, I'll use it today. And put the card on there. Well, I found it, and I brought it all the way from London, and I've had it in the glove compartment, we call it, don't I? I've had it in the glove compartment for a month or two. So, well, I'll put it on here. No one will mind. It's not like I'm robbing the cripple, is it? No. So that's what I'll do. And she put it on there and got caught and got fined, and that was her explanation. She should have been slapped with a table tennis bat. 0161 228 2255. And the guy who was using his mother-in-law's, well, what happens is that the person who allows, and I'm not suggesting his mother-in-law did allow it, but the person who allows you to illicitly use the blue badge card, they forfeit it. But a number of people who have disabilities, of course, don't use it many much. They get it, because you are allowed to use it if you're conveying the person with a disability. It isn't issued to the car, it's issued to the person. So if you were taking your doddery old granny who's got a card, if you were taking her to the shops, you could use it, because she's in the car. Or if you went to collect her, you could use it. So he was using his mother-in-law's. Very strange, very cruel. I just think it's one of those horrid crimes, not what you'd call... You know, it's not rape and pillage, is it? But it's one of those horrid crimes. Albert and Lee says, the Republic of Iceland is a member of NATO. It maintains no standing army, but has a well-trained coast guard. It also has an air defence system. We should be very wary about invading and concentrate on boycotting their shops. Well, it's a good gag, but frankly, the Iceland shops are not owned by Iceland. It isn't the Icelandic government selling prawns. It's not, I promise you.
Sam Walker.
What do you see as Manchester's biggest gift to the world? It's people, it's football, it's rain, or it's music? Music. Mood-altering, life-affirming, world-changing music has been written, recorded and performed right here in our city for years, and it's still being made.
BBC Radio Manchester introducing with Sam Walker.
The future musical classics first, dedicated to supporting Manchester's new musical talent. So hear the bands destined to pack out the MEN before anyone else.
BBC Radio Manchester introducing with Sam Walker. Sunday night from 10 or on demand at bbc.co.uk/Manchester.
I asked you what you'd do with 10 grand, given that the investment market is falling to bits at the seams. Ted in Moston said, I would immediately get Australian citizenship and bugger off down under. Well, 10 grand wouldn't do it, you see. 10 grand wouldn't get you into Australia to get citizenship. Yes, you could go there and survive a few months and maybe find a job and all the rest of it. You would be better off, Ted, given what we were talking about yesterday and the immigration policies of Australia and how they require certain people. You'd be better off spending the 10 grand on an hairdressing course, learning to be a hairdresser, and then offering yourselves to the Immigration Service of Australia, because apparently there's a shortage of hairdressers in Australia. What would I do with 10 grand? Derek in Lee says, what would I do with £10,000 of the lottery winnings? Easy. I'd put it on the first favourite at ADOC. Well, you wouldn't be any worse off, I suspect. Don't get me started on financial advisors. In theory, says Mike, in theory, now is probably a good time to buy shares. Well, you're right, it probably is, isn't it? They're worth buttons. And if you bought them now, well, OK, in the short term, they might be worth less. But one would presume in the long term they'd be worth more. But it's which ones do you buy? I think property, but 10 grand's not going to get you much property. Dear God, it wouldn't get you a greenhouse. Not a big one anyway. It certainly wouldn't get you a conservatory. But anyway, 10 grand is not enough for property. But what would you do with it? He says perhaps you'd put it in government bonds, national savings certificates. Yeah, all possible. If the government, says David in Sale, if the government can suddenly find tens of billions of pounds at short notice to bail out idiotic banks, how come they can't find the second £1.5 billion to invest in a decent public transport system, which, if done properly, would pay for itself anyway? Well, that's a reference to TIF, is it not? Or what you and me call the congestion charge debate. Okay, I never managed to get to the end of the sentence that tells me what TIF stands for. Let's stick with congestion charge debate.
Where would you find
Peter Kay's wig,
an Olympic runner,
and Art Garfunkel?
Sounds like a joke.
Eamon and Diane,
Monday from 6.
and that's not a joke.
0161 228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and you can text, I know, 07786 206 951. I have to say it quick.
95.1 FM, DAB Digital Radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, it's been another tough day on the stock market so far, and Bolton taxpayers are told they won't have to foot the bill after banks in Iceland go bust.
And it'll be capped in Rio at Wembley tomorrow.
There's a lot of cloud around this afternoon, but it should stay dry. Top temperatures 17 Celsius.
And Chester Road between the M6 at junction 19 Knutsford through to Manchester Road closed both ways because of a 6-vehicle collision in the Plumley area.
Good afternoon, I'm Mairead O'Kane. It's been another morning of spectacular falls in the value of shares across Europe. In London, the 100-share index sank below 4,000 for the first time in 5 years. Alistair Hodgins from the Manchester-based stockbrokers Pilling & Co.
What we've seen over the last few weeks is a chain of events that a lot of people thought they would never see. And markets can sometimes be driven by fear and greed, but there's been an awful lot of fear recently and an awful lot of very heavy losses in trading sessions.
If you live in Bolton, you're being assured that your council tax bill won't go up despite the authority having £6 million in a failed Icelandic bank. Bolton Council says the amount is less than 1% of its annual budget. These people in Bolton don't seem too bothered by the situation.
I don't think I'm concerned. I won't say it's a drop in the ocean, but it's not exactly the end of the world.
I suppose nobody could forecast what would happen to the Icelandic banks, could they? They can't really blame the councils. They were just looking for the best return. We've been through recessions, haven't we? We've lived long enough to see ups and downs over the years, so I'm not unduly worried.
The family of a Cheshire lawyer shot dead by police after a standoff at his flat in Chelsea say they will appeal a High Court decision. A judge has dismissed their claim that the investigation into his death was unlawful, as officers were able to talk to each other before they were questioned. Paul Davis from the Police Federation says the practice of conferring before making notes is needed to ensure the accuracy of evidence.
Whilst we understand and appreciate the natural suspicion that some of the public may have, today's judgment confirms the process of conferring before writing notes post-incident and makes clear that police officers are doing their very best to ensure fairness, precision and the truth in a way they record and present their evidence.
The Rhys Jones murder trial has been hearing how the teenager accused of shooting him disposed of the gun he's alleged to have used. Sean Mercer denies murdering 11-year-old Rhys, who was shot in the back in a pub car park near his home in Croxteth Park in Liverpool. Caroline Cheetham was in court.
The jury at Liverpool Crown Court heard that after Rhys Jones had been shot, the alleged gunman Sean Mercer rode his bike to a friend's house and told him he had shot someone and a kid had gone down. Minutes later, after a flurry of phone calls, the prosecution say Sean Mercer was taken by 4 fellow gang members in a people carrier to a lockup on an industrial estate in Kirby. Once there, his clothes were destroyed, and in order to get rid of any gunshot residue, he was doused and cleaned with petrol. Other teenagers were told to get rid of the gun and the bike.
A 20-year-old man's fighting for his life in hospital after a brawl outside a nightclub in Didsbury in the early hours of this morning. It happened at Fridays on Palatine Road. A 34-year-old man's been arrested. And this year's Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to the former president of Finland, Martti Ahtisaari. Making the announcement in Oslo, the Nobel Committee said Mr. Ahtisaari had contributed to a more peaceful world by working to resolve many conflicts.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Well, Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand will captain England for tomorrow's World Cup qualifier against Kazakhstan at Wembley. John Terry has now been ruled out with that back injury. Matthew Upson, Julian Lescott and Wes Brown are all in contention to fill Terry's place in central defence. Chelsea have issued a High Court claim for £16 million against FC Lyn Oslo and the Norwegian club's former chief executive Morgan Anderson. That's over the transfer of John Obi Mikel. Matthew Tate has joined Andrew Sheridan in missing Sale's opening Heineken Cup game in France against Clermont tomorrow. Tate has a hamstring problem. Sheridan has an arm injury, and the Sharks say Charlie Hodgson will start on the game on the bench. That's with Richard Wigglesworth taking his place at fly half. Johnny Wilkinson faces another 5 months of rehab after dislocating his knee 10 days ago. The England number 10 says he will be out of next year's Six Nations and will be a major doubt for the Summer Lions tour. Welsh centre Gavin Henson won't appear for the Ospreys in their first 2 Heineken Cup games. He's been banned for internal disciplinary reasons. And at close on day 2 of the first test, India are 68 without loss in reply to Australia's first innings total of 430 in Bangalore.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon there is an awful lot of cloud around, but that cloud will lift and break from time to time, and we should see some bright or sunny spells, particularly across parts of Cheshire. Further north, North Manchester might just see a light shower, but for most of us, it's a mostly dry afternoon. It's pretty windy, though, but top temperatures will get to 17 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
You're right. The telephone number, if you want to take part orally, is 0161 228 2255. You can do it in writing via 3 ways if you count snail mail. But you can do it via text on 07786 206 951. And you can email. And that is radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. Neville in Hindley. Hiya, Neville.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon.
Listen, there was a lad on just a while ago before the news. He wanted some information on Blu-ray, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
On what he had to do to get it, and was it worth it?
Well, now listen, I'm not going to say no, I'm not going to say yes, but...
You're not going to be a lot of use then, are you?
Well, hang on, wait a minute. Yeah, wait a minute. There's a piece of news been put out by Amazon UK on HD DVD and on their webpage, and it says HD DVD News. And it says this: Toshiba has announced that it will stop manufacturing HD DVD players at the end of March. This effectively means that the only hardware that will support the HD DVD format in future will be the Xbox 360 HD DVD player. This is sold separately from the console. The future availability of HD DVD discs is unknown. Amazon UK will continue to stock them, blah, blah. HD DVD players and discs for as long as they are available.
Yeah.
If you already own an HD DVD player, you'll be able to get old stock, you know. Now, I would suggest, according to this, the HD DVD, I understand, will play Blu-ray because it's 100. You can get 1,080 pixels out of it. Now, you need that to play Blu-ray, I believe.
Right.
So I would suggest. It looks like to me there's something else on the cards, and I think.
Well, hasn't there been a big row going on?
I believe so.
About which one will be if you like, which one will be the primary.
Yeah,
and it's beginning to look like Blu-ray might have won on the evidence of what you've just presented.
But I think things are going to alter, you know, according to this piece of news that they've put out. Because I say I've got an HD DVD player, and I've not bought Blu-ray for it yet. I've not tried Blu-ray on it, but my telly can do the pixels, like.
Yeah, so you've got the HD, but it's playing the DVDs, isn't it? I mean, I've got an ordinary DVD player. It's not HD or any of the other.
Yeah, ordinary won't play it, but I believe HD,
no, I'm just saying
HD.
If I put an ordinary DVD in there that I've got from the video,
it'll just play it normal.
It'll just play it normal. That's right. It doesn't look like anything that much different to.
Well, that's what HD. I understand HD DVD does. It plays down if you haven't got the topper end, it'll play the bottom end, like, you know.
Yeah, it'll accept the signal that's going in and use it. Yeah, it's all a mess. We all got stung. I should tell you about the BBC. We got stung, but it couldn't be avoided.
Yeah.
But you know when they brought out, now what were they called? Them little, even smaller than cassettes. I can't remember what they were called now. What were they called? It wasn't DVD. It was, I can't remember. Anyway, we had to, I'm just looking if we've still got one here. No, we've got, first we had the mini disc, didn't we? That was going to be the saviour.
Yeah.
That was it, DAT.
Yeah.
Everybody went over to DAT. I nearly bought one. They were about £1,000. I nearly bought, because it's a business expense for me, I nearly bought one. And 2 years later, they're all on the top shelf. They're all finished. But that's electronics for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not really into it. I'm not an expert on this. But as I say, I just picked up this. I was just looking, actually, for the... Actually, I was looking. My daughter's considering getting a new system. Yeah. And I said, well, if you're getting one, I think you might consider Blu-ray might be better. She said, it's too expensive. So I was looking there for a reasonable Blu-ray player. And I found one, actually, that might suit her. But then, while I was doing this is when I came across this here message, or this here snippet of the news. And so, you know, as a result, I said, well, best thing you do is just hold on for a while.
Wait and see. You get to the stage, though, where you hold on forever and ever and ever.
True.
A friend of mine bought one of those Bose music things. And I thought, that's lovely, that's a smashing sound. And I bought one. And then, because I don't like getting up and down, I'm a lazy so-and-so. So I got one of them that plays 5 or 6 CDs. And honestly, it sounds like a Lambretta falling down in the garden on a concrete path when it changes. Considering that the Bose are supposed to be magic with sound, they are when it plays. It's wonderful, but when it changes, it really does. It sounds like a bloke with a bag of nails, and nothing better to do than throw it down an alleyway. And it's a horrible sound, and we stuck with it because the sound, the reproduction of the music is fantastic. And then, of course, we've all got iPods now. Nobody plays DVDs anymore.
No.
CDs, I'm sorry. Nobody plays CDs except in the car.
They're on the way out.
Exactly. And you just can't keep up sometimes. And if you're one of the unlucky ones that buys it today and it goes out of production tomorrow, you feel a fool.
Well, as I say, Amazon have a forum on all this information.
Right.
And it's on the HD DVD page of Amazon UK. So if he logs on to Amazon UK and goes on to the HD DVD and movies page, he'll get all this information he needs.
Well, good on you. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
You direct the man to it, and that'll do. And seeing as how we've sorted that query out, Sean came on first, talking about St James's Hall. Can I get this out the way, just so that we've done it? I did it a few days ago. I'll do it again. David sent it to us via text. I don't know which David, but it doesn't matter. They all look the same on the radio. Here we go. We'll read it through. You've probably heard it, in which case, don't worry, it'll only take 20 seconds. The credit crunch... Hang on, it's disappeared. There it is. The credit crunch has now reached Japan. The National Bank of Origami has folded. The Sushi Bank has suffered from some fishy deals, and investors are getting a raw deal. Employees of the Karate Bank are up for the chop. The Karate Bank is going for a song. Sorry, the Karaoke Bank is going for a song. The Kamikaze Bank has crashed, the Bonsai Bank has had to cut its branches, and the National Bank of Jiu-Jitsu has collapsed. Finally, the Sumo Bank has gone belly up. There. I knew you'd feel better for that. Frankly, so do I.
Some of the most important people in local sport work behind the scenes.
Like June Kelly. Last year, June was the BBC North West Sports Unsung Hero, awarded for her devotion to Abraham Moss Warriors Football Club.
It's because I believe that everybody has a right to be able to play football. It really shouldn't matter what colour you are or what religion you are if you want to play football.
Right now, you can nominate your unsung sporting hero for here in Greater Manchester.
If you know someone who gives their time and dedication to sport in your area, nominate them now at bbc.co.uk/sportsunsunghero.
Tony in St Helens. Hi, Tony.
Hello, Alan. Listen, don't you crucify me, pal. This is the first time on here.
Well, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. I like that the same way you're on about bag of nails. You used to call a bloke that down pits. He had a face like a bag of nails. And he give any holidays, do you, or what?
No, unfortunately.
No, I think you could do one out.
I think so as well.
Are
you prepared to pay?
Hey, listen, pal, I've been going through this bank thing. You know this thing? I put my redundancy in that moment. On that bank where you mark X on it, you know. I know you're not allowed to say it, are you?
No, indeed.
Anyway, tell you, I've been running around like a scarlet cat. I'm a bit over the odds, like what the government's prepared to give back.
So you've got more than 50 grand in
darling, don't you be discussing my finance.
Well, no, you discussed them. You said, we all know what the figure the government's protecting is, but you've got more than that, yes.
I'll be getting loads of begging letters, you know what I mean? That's what I'm frightened of.
Well, don't worry.
I want you to be the first, will you?
No. I once interviewed a chap who just won $5 million on the lottery. I said, "What are you going to do about the begging letters?" He said, "I'll keep sending them." Thank you. Yes, I thought we'd get the old gags out of them.
Anyway, I knew that. I told you need a holiday. You know what I mean?
So you've got this difficulty in that some of your money's not protected.
Well, it is now because I put it. Oh, see, I couldn't mention banks, but I can't, can I?
Well, you've moved it. That's what we say. You've taken it out of one and put it in the other.
Yeah, and then the other one I told you, they phoned up. They said, "I've been." What I was actually trying to do, I was trying to get into a joint account.
Yeah.
But I had the wife in bed, pleurisy for the fortnight, and she couldn't go down. So the only alternative said, "Well, they keep telling you don't switch it, like." But I'll tell you what, I went to one. It's a well-known bank, and I've never seen a dump like it in my life. I thought, what have I brought money here for, like? And it's one of the top banks.
Yeah.
Begins with H. You know, I can't...
Well, let's not hint at anybody's name, because it just makes it harder, but...
I hope the money's saved, like, it's one of the top banks, but...
it will be safe.
Looking at it, like, you know what I mean? I thought, you know, I would like to tell you what was going on. Anyway, I'm digressing here.
You are, indeed, but go on.
What I was on about, after the thing you do, these MPs suffer from amnesia. Because they have all the answers when they're out of their power, but they don't seem to have them when they get in power. You with me?
I am indeed with you. There is quite a lot of that goes on, yes.
Same as thing, you ask the opposition now, he's got all the answers to everything, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But when you get in power, he seems to forget.
It is a lot easier to say what you would do rather than face the problem of what you will do.
Yeah, but why do you have all the answers? You know, they have all the solutions to the problems when they're out of power. Well, when they get in power, you know what I mean? That's they must suffer from amnesia, though. Don't you think so?
I don't think they suffer from amnesia. I think they suddenly realise that it's a lot harder. It's like it's like all those retired footballers.
Yeah.
Or the one that you hear the most of is retired cricketers, and when you hear them commentating,
they're on for a good payday, aren't they?
They are indeed, but retired cricketers.
They're not some of this money flow, are they?
You hear them often say, "I've never missed a catch since I retired." You know, I mean, it's the nature of humanity.
The best one, he said, give it a good length.
Give it a good length.
You know.
Steady now. Tony, good on you, mate.
Yeah.
Cheers. I'm an IFA, says Stephen in Wigan. That's Independent Financial Advisor. If I won 10k on the lottery on Saturday, I'd be very tempted to stick it in the bank. That's human nature. However, sensible thought would suggest that as the stock market has collapsed to levels not previously seen for some years, now is a great buying opportunity. Where to buy is another question entirely. Also, if I was nearing retirement or risk-averse, which means he doesn't like risk, I would never stick it in the stock market. If I was younger and therefore more able to withstand the storm over time, then I would invest in a range of different funds to spread my risk. I doubt if I would buy a single company's shares for fear of their collapse. Boring, he says, but there you go. Stephen in Wigan, that's not boring, that's informative. The trouble about finance is one rarely gets a clear sense of what to do. I know you IFA chaps, and quite right too. The first thing you want to do, independent financial advisors, the first thing you want to do is work out a person's understanding of risk. Do they know about risk? Have they worked out what they're prepared to risk and all that? I mean, if somebody wins 10,000 quid and they've got £1 million in the bank, who cares? If somebody's got nothing and they win 10,000 quid, it's a lot of money. And then there's all those people in between. And like you say, 10,000 quid to somebody who's going to retire in a fortnight is not something you're going to gamble. 10,000 quid to a 25-year-old, well, if he puts it on a horse and loses, well, he got it for now, it's gone for now, and 3 days later he'll forgot it. Because that's the nature of humanity, is it not? Vinny in Oldham. Hi, Vinny.
Hi, pal. What it is, I've asked everybody I can think of, including accountants, this question, and nobody seems to give me a sensible answer. All this money that's being lost through banks and building societies and shares and this, that and the other, where's it all go to? Somebody must have it somewhere. It can't just evaporate, can it? It's got to be, somebody's got it somewhere. So where's it gone?
Well, you're working on the basis of it's actual cash. It isn't actual cash in some respects. And where it is, all those people... Imagine you buy £1,000 worth of shares today,
Yeah.
Okay. Now, those £1,000 worth of shares, in 10 years' time, if you're lucky, will be worth 1,500 quid. So you've now got a share asset of 1,500 quid.
Right.
If you go to the bank to borrow 1,500 quid, they'll say, I'll lend you 1,500 quid because you can give me 1,500 quid worth of security in those shares. If those shares now fall in value, you've now got a loan that is worth more than your asset. So the outstanding sum of your loan is higher than the asset you've got to support it with. And yet nobody's lost any money at this stage. If, however, the bank calls in your loan and says, I want my 1,500 quid, you've no longer got 1,500 quid worth of shares to meet the bank's demand. So you sell the shares for 1,200. You've made a profit of 2 on your shares, and yet you've made a loss on the deal of 300. Where's the money? Well, the money's lost on paper value. But you're the one that's now going to have to get 300 quid from somewhere to pay the bank. Now,
okay, go on, sorry, go on.
Well, if you used the 1,500 quid you borrowed off the bank to invest in a business, and that business has made money, then you'll be able to give the 300 quid out of that. If not, you're going to have to find it from somewhere else.
Right, so the 300 quid that's lost, somebody's got it.
Well, somebody might not have it. It might be. I mean, you've had it, you've received it, you got a loan for 1,500 quid. Now, if you've invested that loan in a business and the business has made profit, great. If the business has gone to the wall, you still owe the bank that money. So you've now got a minus figure at the bank of £300. And you've got to find that from somewhere. That might be from selling the business, it might be from selling some other asset, it might be from getting a job and paying it back weekly. There could be a variety of ways, but you're the one that has lost.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got to find 300 quid. But somebody somewhere has got my 300 quid.
No, because it was a paper 300 quid, remember. We'll come back to it if you want, but paper money isn't real until somebody wants paying. Come back to you, probably. It's 21 and a half minutes past 1 o'clock on BBC Radio Manchester. Michelle Adamson's got the headlines.
It's been another morning of spectacular falls in the value of shares across Europe. In London, the 100 index sank below 4,000 for the first time in 5 years. The family of a Cheshire lawyer shot dead by police after a standoff at his flat in Chelsea say they'll appeal a High Court decision. A judge dismissed their claim that the investigation into his death was unlawful, as officers were able to talk to each other before they were questioned. The Ministry of Defence has lost the personal details of around 100,000 members of the armed forces. And Manchester's weather fairly cloudy this afternoon, staying dry though, highs of 17 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Let's take a look firstly to the roads. And in Knutsford, the A556 Chester Road between junction 19 of the M6 and Manchester Road still closed because of a 6-vehicle collision in the Plumley area. The police have closed the road from the M6 roundabout near Knutsford through to Lostock Graylam, diverting traffic via Mere and Knutsford, so expect delays as well on the diversion. We've already seen queues on camera on the A50 Warrington Road around Gaskell Avenue. Not doing badly on the motorway network, though. All seems to be moving fairly clearly on the M60 and the M56. Now to public transport, and an earlier broken down tram still causing problems for Metrolink users. Delays of up to 20 minutes are still possible between Eccles and Manchester City Centre. Now delays on the Altrincham line have cleared, but as I say, Eccles line services are still experiencing some delays. Now don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Carla Banks.
2020 traffic means you get an update every 20 minutes through the day. BBC Radio Manchester.
Right, Vinny.
I'm back with you.
Good, all right. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you got any money in your pocket at the minute? Any? Doesn't matter what it is. Have you got any?
Yes, I have.
What, have you got a tenner?
Yes.
Take it out. Have a look at it.
It probably says I promised to pay.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about what it promises. Don't worry about that. Okay.
Right, hang on a minute. I'm sat in my car, fiddling in my back pocket.
All right, well, let's not go to the trouble.
I've got it now.
So you've got a tenner. Right.
Bank of England, I promised to pay the bearer, yeah.
Never mind the promise to pay the bearer. You think you've got £10 in your hands, don't you?
I do think I've got £10 in my hand, yes.
You haven't. You've got a piece of paper.
Right, okay.
You've got a piece of paper. Bear with me. Go
on, then.
Your question was, where's the money? Where's the money? What is money?
It's got a gold reserve somewhere, I should
No,
imagine.
it's not. Gordon Brown sold off the gold reserves not long after Labour got into power. It isn't backed up by £10 worth of gold. It isn't, I promise you. It's a trust fund that you've got hold of. It's a trust fund. It's a note. It's a piece of paper. And it's of no more value than the value that those who would take it from you put on it. Now, they would take it from you in return for some item, be it food or whatever. Or, indeed, how did you come by it? Well, you did some work, didn't you?
Yeah.
And when you did the work, another individual said, here's a note to show that you've done work for me of a certain value. We will agree that the value is £10. So there is a universal agreement throughout the United Kingdom and the world that £10 is worth £10. Do you agree so far? You're still with me?
Yes, I am, yeah.
All right. Now, if you went to buy dollars with it, you at the moment would get slightly fewer dollars than you would have got had you went to buy dollars with it last week. Why? It's not changed in value. The people in America who have the $8, or sorry, the $15 that they would give you for your £10, they've not done more work for that same $15 or less. They've got a $10 bill and a $5 bill that they're prepared to give you for your £10 note. But you agree between you, or at least the nations and the bankers agree between them, what the different rate is. If you sent that £10 note instead to Europe and changed it for euros, you might actually, I don't know the exchange rates at the moment, but ignoring all the things like commissions and the like, it might be that if you convert your £10 note into euros and then bought dollars, you would get more dollars. Because at the moment, the agreement, and it's not one of those, but the sort of code between the United States and Europe is that they will pay more for euros because they want euros. They don't really want pounds. So the value of the pound goes down, the value of the euro goes up against the dollar. And when you hear the financial reporters giving the currency values, they always say the pound against the dollar, the pound against the yen or whatever, because there isn't an intrinsic, static £10 value. So there's no real money. It doesn't exist. It's just pretend. But everybody plays the same pretense. It's like your house. Do you own your own home?
Yes.
Are you better off than you were when you bought the home?
I would imagine so.
How? It's just a house. It's not worth any more or any less until you sell it. Now, where does the money come from when you sell it? So you've got a £50,000 home. You've bought it 10 years ago for £40,000. Where's the £10,000 come from? Nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere. Why? Because you've not sold it. It's not worth £10,000 more yet. It would be, perhaps, if someone would give you that money and you were prepared to sell, but you've not got £10,000. Now, here's the question. You've not got that £10,000, have you?
No.
No. It's sitting there. You think you have. You look at it. Now, imagine you wanted to go on a £10,000 holiday. Well, you go to the bank and you say, I haven't got 10,000 quid in cash, but my house is worth £10,000 more than I paid for it, so I've got £10,000 worth of equity. That's no value at all. Equity. So you borrow it off the bank, okay?
Yeah.
So you borrow £10,000 off the bank and you spend it. And then your house devalues, as they're doing rather spectacularly at the moment. So you owe the bank £10,000, but you're quite comfortable with that because you've got £10,000 worth of house. And then the value of your house plummets. You owe the bank £10,000, but now you've only got £5,000 worth of house. Where's the other £5,000? It's all just pretend. There's no real value in money. The value in money is the value you can get for it in goods. I always think of, it's an old story from the army, but we never ever, in the army, we didn't say we got £5. We said we got £5 worth of beer vouchers. They were just vouchers with which to purchase stuff. So money isn't real. It's not real. Years ago, do you know?
It's not important, but it's real.
Well, I know. Well, you know, years ago, it's extraordinary. I won an award for this. I don't normally boast about award, singular. But years and years ago, I won an award for a radio programme. And what we did in it, it just so happens that they just changed the currency from pound notes to coins. Okay?
Yeah.
So the coin came in, and on the day that the coin came in, the brand new pound coin, I went out into the streets with a bag of pound coins. I say a bag, about 20 of them.
Yeah.
And I tried to buy pound notes off people. And I said, I want to buy a pound note off you, and I'm going to give you £1 10p for it. Now, the conceit of the idea was that I was making the case that pound notes are now going out of circulation, so they'll become collector's items. That was what we were pretending. And I was saying to people, look, just give me the pound coin and I will give you £1 10p. So you give me £1, I give you £1 10p. I put the pound in a cupboard somewhere, and in 20 years' time, I'll sell it for a profit. That was what we were trying to do. Out of the 50 people we approached and asked to sell us a pound note for a £1 coin plus a 10p piece, do you know how many out of the 50 were prepared to do it?
Very few, I should imagine.
8.
Yeah.
I couldn't give money away. 8. Why? Because they had a notion that the pound was worth more than the pound. Blimey. You're no further forward, but I've had fun. Vinny, good on you, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, pal, thanks.
And that story about the pound coins and the pound notes, I promise you, is true. Paul in Ashton-under-Lyne. Hiya, Paul.
Hello.
What can we do for you?
It's only a quickie story.
Go on, then.
It's just about the stocks and shares and the current day status of the crash.
Yeah.
Well, can you remember a chap by the name of Howard Hughes?
Say again?
Can you remember a chap by the name of Howard
I
Hughes?
remember Howard Hughes awfully well.
Yeah, well, when the Wall Street crash happened, he bought all the shares going.
He bought all sorts, yeah. He made his money there, but he made most of his money out of oil.
Yeah.
But yes, he did buy an awful lot of shares when the Wall Street went to the wall, as it were.
So it's not all doom and gloom at the moment?
No, it's not. Someone somewhere is making a fortune, without a doubt. Someone somewhere is making a fortune. The bad news is it's not me.
Yes, it's not me neither.
Have a good day, mate. Cheers. Thank you for that. Howard Hughes did indeed buy a lot of shares, and many of the shares he bought, frankly, were valueless and stayed valueless. But some of the ones he bought, including stocks in oil companies, shot up when it all started going. He became a multi-millionaire, but he still ended up balmy. Yeah, here's a gag for you. Rear-ended a car today to set of lights. When the other driver got out, I noticed he was only 4'2". He said, I'm not happy. And I yelled, which one then? Are you? Grumpy? Sneezy? That's when the fighting started. Thank you. You forgot to mention the shoe bank, which had a good kicking, and the tool bank that's been hammered. You see what you start when you read out a gag like that? That's what you start. You have to sit here and endure terrible, terrible gags. The world is wicked. Darren in Oldham said, I just wanted to let you know that all shareholders are not fat, greedy, rich money grabbers like some people think. I had a small number of shares in Bradford and Bingley. I was fully aware that shares go up and down. I knew it was all a risk. However, I believe that the Bradford and Bingley situation is very different. My shares are now worthless. The government did a part nationalisation and sold off the good bits. The good parts are still going well and making money for Banco Santander. Shareholders get nothing. Only weeks ago, the Bradford and Bingley wrote to me asking for more money. They told me that the bank was strong and the future looked good, so I handed over another £200. Now it's all gone. Was I conned? When the Bradford and Bingley cashed my cheque, they must have known that they were in serious trouble. Was I a greedy shareholder, or was I conned? What do you think? Well, you probably weren't conned, and you're probably not a greedy shareholder. The Bradford and Bingley did invite a rights issue. They invited a rights issue because they were cash short and they wanted to fend off a takeover bid because they looked cash weak, so they needed more cash, and they wrote to their shareholders and said, look, we need more cash to protect the bank. Will you give us more cash and we'll give you some more shares? And you agreed, you took the risk, and you lost, along with thousands of others. So no, you're not greedy. What else are you to do with your 200 quid? I was a customer of Bradford and Bingley many years ago when they demutualised, and they gave me however many shares it was. I sold them immediately. And I've not still got the money, but I haven't lost it either. I got it, and I spent it, I think. That's what I do with everything else I got, so I suspect it was that. Jack, in Blakely. Hiya, Jack.
Hiya.
What have you got?
That offer you was making, a pound coin and 10p for a pound note. I've still got the pound note.
Yes, very good. Well, it was a very short-term offer, Jack in Blakely, but nice try, you swine.
Listen, when you were talking about the Cod Wars.
Yes.
I was up there in '59 on a destroyer chaplet, and you know we was chasing around.
Yeah.
You know, trying to circle the fleet, stop them two little gunboats of theirs going in. And we had one little altercation with them. We'd turn into port, and as you know, on a destroyer, when she turns to port, she veers over to starboard. Well, this thing tried to come under our bows.
Really?
So we crushed all the conning tower. You know, all the upper structure. You know, where the captain and the.
Oh, so you effectively collided with it.
Well, she collided with us.
Well, okay, you each collided, yeah.
Yeah, and she limped away. You know, in a right mess. But the thing was that we had a lad on board there that was suffering with appendicitis, and our sick bay was about as big as a toilet. So we needed to get him ashore, you know, to... They wouldn't allow us to go in. They wouldn't allow us to go into Reykjavik.
Well, if you're having a fight with them, it's fair enough, isn't it, really? But, you know...
well, we thought, this lad's not well, so, you know, they allow us to go in, take him off. Anyway, and in the end, they ended up doing the operation on the wardroom table. Yeah. I never saw him again, yeah.
He's maybe listening. He'll probably ring you and say, you're right, it was the size of a toilet.
Well, if you get as far as Geordie landing, he probably will be. But,
we go all sorts now.
Yes, we do.
Because we're internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now.
He never looked well, though. He never looked well after he came out with
it. Well, I'm not surprised if the sick bay was the size of a toilet.
Yeah.
But, was it exciting?
It was boring.
Boring?
Yeah.
What, you skirmishing with people? It was boring.
Yeah. Well, that was like a 10-minute thing once a week, you know. Most of the time you was doing an economical 5 knots, you know, just circling the fishing fleet, which was, as you can imagine, was huge. And then all out of the mist and the light, you know, because it was never dark up there. It was you know, it was beyond May.
Yeah,
it was never dark. It was strange going on watching in the middle of the night and coming off watching in the middle of the night.
Those northern nations that live beyond the Arctic Circle, they at least 2 of them I'm aware of, have a very, very high suicide rate.
I can imagine.
Because it's never dark, as you say, it's never dark.
Yeah, and then during the winter, it's never light. I mean,
it's never light, that's the other side. Yeah, your days are like 6 months long. But you talk about boring. A mate of mine, Chris, who we used to swim with at the Y, he was in nuclear subs.
Yeah.
And he spent 6 months under the ice cap.
I can imagine.
Now, how boring must that have been?
Yeah. I mean, and what have you got? I mean, take your turn to go on a cycling machine to keep yourself a little bit fit.
Well, the other thing is, Chris is really tall. And he said for 6 months he was never able to stand up straight.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And he used to just lie down on the floor just to have enough room to, because his bunk, as you know, the bunks are tiny.
Well, so no, we didn't have bunks, it was all hammocks.
Well, they have little bunks, but they share it.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
And by that, I don't mean they're all cuddling, although I believe a little bit of that does go on.
All depends what they
If you get an ugly one, you're really pigged off, aren't you? Although after 6 months, you're probably not that bothered.
Well, they used to say that as long as your feet aren't facing the same way before that.
That's right, they did, didn't they? They did. Yeah. But anyway, he spent 6 months, and what they do, because they're on shift and off shift, there's only, when you're off shift, it's your bed, and when you're on shift, it's somebody else's.
Yeah, well...
Oh, dear.
Well, I'm in the Royal Naval Association, and,
yeah.
and there's 2 or 3 ex-submariners in that, but they're from diesel boats, And the old saying was, if you were stood in a bar in Portsmouth or Plymouth, and he was having a drink, you knew when there was a submariner in the bar, even if you hadn't seen him. You could smell him.
Oh, I'm not going to... Listen, I'm not getting involved in any fighting. Good on you, Jack.
Smell diesel.
You can, it's the diesel, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was all that proximity.
Oh, no.
Have a good day.
Well.
You see. Have a good day, mate.
Okay, mate.
We're swinging the lad today, aren't we, dear God? It's 20-2 on BBC Radio Manchester. And Michelle Adamson has got the headlines.
A delegation of officials from the Treasury, the Bank of England and the Financial Services Authorities arrived in Reykjavik for talks with the Icelandic government. The team's there to establish protection for UK depositors with Iceland's 3 biggest banks, which have collapsed. The High Court has dismissed a claim by the family of a Cheshire lawyer shot dead by police that the investigation into his death was unlawful. Mark Saunders from Alderley Edge was killed after a standoff at his flat in Chelsea in May. A 29-year-old man still being questioned by police on suspicion of murder after a woman was found dead at a house in Bolton. And Manchester's weather fairly cloudy this afternoon, but it should stay dry, highs of 17 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, that earlier broken down trams causing delays of 20 minutes between Eccles and Manchester City Centre. Delays on the Altrincham line have cleared, but Eccles line delays are still expected. So please make sure you allow yourself plenty of extra journey time this afternoon. Now to Knutsford and Chester Road, the A556, still closed between the M6 at junction 19 through to Manchester Road after 6 vehicles collided. So traffic for the moment is being diverted off via Mere and Knutsford. But just a word of warning, traffic on the diversions also looking fairly slow, and on the M6 northbound, heavy going between 17 Sandbach and 18 at Middlewich. But don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand will captain England for tomorrow's World Cup qualifier against Kazakhstan at Wembley. John Terry's now been ruled out with that back injury. Wes Brown, Matthew Upson and Jolyon Lescott are all in contention to fill Terry's place in central defence. But England coach Fabio Capello is hoping that his captain will be fit for Wednesday's game in Belarus.
He did in training today. We have to recover him for the next game. We have 23 players. We have to substitute. I'm sure that the substitute of John Terry will play very well.
Manchester City goalkeeper Joe Hart is set to start for the England under-21s this evening against Wales at Ninian Park. Stuart Pearce's job as under-21 coach will be reviewed after next summer's finals in Sweden. Chelsea have issued a High Court claim for £16 million against FC Lyn Oslo and the Norwegian club's former chief executive Morgan Andersen over the transfer of John Obi Mikel. With the internationals taking place, the weekend football is dominated by the Football League. Tonight, Rochdale can climb up to 7th in League 2 if they win at Lincoln City. Dale boss Keith Hill isn't concerned about playing under the Friday night lights.
Friday night, Tuesday night, Monday morning, Sunday afternoon, it doesn't matter when we play. We're prepared to play whenever it is. We haven't fared too well in the previous season against Lincoln. They beat us twice, home and away. So we want to do better than we did last season. We'll be judged on whether we win, lose or draw that game.
We'll have coverage of Dale's game at Lincoln in the all-new Manchester Sports tonight from 7 o'clock. Paul Morgan is a major doubt for Macclesfield's home game against Aldershot tomorrow. The on-loan Bury midfielder is suffering with a thigh injury. Mac boss Keith Alexander is worried about their impact their home form so far this season may have.
We've already lost 2 at home, which for me is very disappointing and something, we need to put right, because the majority of your home supporters don't go to the away matches, so the only games they see are the ones that you lose, and, that's how you get people to come through the gates, by winning home matches.
Well, having played in the Premier League and Championship, you'd have thought Oldham striker Lee Hughes might be finding life in League One a little more straightforward. However, ahead of a game against bottom side Hereford on Sunday, Hughes says that simply isn't the case.
When you get out there, it's just the same as any game, really. I mean, you get kicked and shoved everywhere, so it's still a good league to play in.
A centre-back maybe that's plied his trade at this level, you think, oh, you're a bit of a trophy player for him, you're likely to get kicked a bit more often.
Probably right. I can give it back as well. No, I like a good battle on the pitch.
Well, in rugby union, Matthew Tate has joined Andrew Sheridan in missing Sale's opening Heineken Cup game in France against Clermont tomorrow. Tate has a hamstring problem, Sheridan has an arm injury, and the Sharks say Charlie Hodgson will start the game on the bench, with Richard Wigglesworth taking his place at fly half. Well, Sale's director of rugby, Philippe Saint-André, used to play for the French side and believes he's played his part in being a bit of a matchmaker in the town.
I played there for 9 years. I had the pub, a restaurant, a discotheque there. 1,000 people each night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So a lot of people meet there and are married there. So in the town, everybody came to drink in my bar or in my restaurant, so it's for this, and it's a big interest, I think. But the best present can be if we can beat them.
Johnny Wilkinson's revealed he's facing another 5 months of rehab after dislocating his knee 10 days ago. The England fly half is ruled out of next year's Six Nations and will be a major doubt for the Summer Lions tour. Welsh centre Gavin Henson won't appear for the Ospreys in their first 2 Heineken Cup games. He's been banned for internal disciplinary reasons. In Rugby League, New Warrington Wolves signing Mickey Hyam believes that the closeness and unity of the England squad will stand them in good stead for the World Cup. Hyam has been talking about the club-like feel to the team ahead of their warm-up match against Wales tonight.
I think so. I've worked just over a week now with Tony, and I can see his style of play is different to the previous coach at Riverton, and I think the way he's coaching at the moment, I think that's the way to go in, especially in the team he's picked. I think he knows the strengths and weaknesses of our team, and being the coach he is, what I've seen of him tonight, he'll use that to our advantage.
We'll have full commentary from Doncaster for England's match with Wales in the all-new Manchester Sports from 7 this evening. And finally, in cricket, India closed the second day of the first test in Bangalore on 68 without loss. That's in reply to Australia's first innings total of 430. Michael Hussey made 146.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
In League 2 this evening, there's coverage of Rochdale at Lincoln, and there's commentary from Doncaster on the Rugby League International between England and Wales, all tonight from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh, yeah. 0161 228 2255. If you want to join us, that's okay. Chris in Middleton says the Cheshire Building Society's gone bump as well. Well, it's not, but he says it's been taken over by the Nationwide. My brother works at Cheshire's head office in Macclesfield and is awaiting his redundancy settlement, along with other staff, as I write. Well, all right, but it's not gone bump, it's still there, so let's get that right. I don't want to get in any trouble. Alan, remember, beware investing in shares. Your investment may go up as well as down. That's Mick in Windermere. And yes, people shouldn't really put important money, there's no unimportant money, but you know what I mean, they shouldn't put money that they need into investments any more than they should put it into the local bookmakers. You shouldn't play the city, either as an individual or buying packages, unless it's money that you can afford to lose, other than, of course, by doing it as part of a great big investment plan with a pension company or some of those. And even those, we are none of us protected against the potential of loss. None of us. Obviously 50 grand, which the government thinks is the minimum sum, 50 grand is protected, but beyond that, you're stuffed. Mike in Manchester says, the best guest on BBC One's Question Time is Private Eyes Ian Hislop. I really enjoying it when he's on. It would be great if he was on every week. He really gets under the skin of the smarmy politicians on the panel. It's not just a case of him mocking and embarrassing them in a continuation of his Have I Got News for You role, but he puts them on the spot, probes them, asks questions that you would ask yourself if given the opportunity to be on the panel. You probably have to be a real fan of his lot, which I am, because he can take over the show in that David Dimbleby and the rest become rather insignificant. However, it makes great viewing for an hour as politicians squirm around on their seats, not knowing what's coming next. And then he goes on to say, Mike in Manchester says, I believe that most politicians these days are inept. None more so than the idiot that's passing for Prime Minister at the moment, and Hislop emphasises this in his treatment of them. In a similar way, I enjoy the way Jeremy Paxman interviews them. They should be given a tough time because they have so much responsibility on their shoulders for the decisions they make. We are a much more politically educated society now, and we demand that our politicians endure a proper test when they're under the microscope. You should go on Question Time yourself. You enjoy politics. You're verbally adroit. I'd love to see it. It'd make for a great hour of quality entertainment. Well, they don't use the likes of me. You need a national reputation, and I haven't and don't want one. But I wonder, I mean, sometimes the non-political guest can be a bit of a pain. You know, somebody not very interesting. But that's the nature of all programmes, isn't it? But it is good that I think it's good that Question Time now has a non-political guest. The great problem is there are very few people that are utterly non-political. And so you end up with, yes, if you look at, I mean, I'm sure he votes, and I think I could probably guess which party he votes for, but it doesn't matter. Hislop presents himself as a spiky, pokey, nosy, eyesy thing. He doesn't market a political agenda, but sometimes you end up with the third person has their own political agenda, so you end up anyway spending the evening watching two politicians from different parties and then a politician from one party and his mate. It's a bit tedious then, isn't it? Never mind. Keith in Blackpool. Alan, your swimming pal was shooting a line. No UK boat spent 6 months under the ice, ever. No UK boat spent 6 weeks under the ice. I was 17 years in conventional and nuclear boats, retired in 79. I went under the ice in Artful in 62. We only did a couple of days at a time, and it was makey-learny time. I don't know what that means. It was dodgy, and we all knew it. We had to surface every night to recharge the batteries, and it wasn't easy finding ice thin enough to break through. We were fitted with a special upward-looking sonar, which didn't work very well. There are also places under the ice where there are upside-down mountains of ice. Not very good for running into. I was in Revenge for 6 years and went on patrol in the 70s. The longest was 3 months without surfacing. That's Keith in Blackpool. OK, 01612282255. It seems strange to me that someone who is dead against immigration fantasises about migrating to Australia. I think you might be referring to Ted in Mosden there. But we all, without wanting to criticise him, we all have those kind of contradictions in ourselves, don't we? And it is weird. What's the point of all the high-quality reproduction equipment when all the films being made are crap? P.S. What about buying gold bars and stuffing them under the bed? Well, Malcolm in Offerton, now is a very bad time to buy gold bars because they are quite precious and quite expensive because people flee to gold, don't they? They take their cash out and they buy gold. So now's not a good time to buy gold bars because they are, well, if you're going to keep them short term, it is, because they're still going up in price, I'm led to believe, but you should have bought them before the trouble began. Didn't Mr. Morgan get sacked from his position as editor of the Daily Mirror over the faked Iraqi abuse pictures? David in Sale. I don't know. Certainly something like that went on, but I don't think he was sacked. They don't tend to sack editors, do they? They invite them to move somewhere else.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
Some of the pearls of wisdom from the wonderful Judge Judy.
Of course I'm right. I'm always right. I'm like a truth machine. Did you ever hear the expression, beauty fades, dull is forever? Fantastic.
Eamon and Diane and you.
What's on your walls?
You've probably heard of Geldarts. We've got a picture of a Hereford calf. It's one of his more famous ones. But he gave it to us because it was actually our calf, and I held the calf for him.
Oh, really?
The Station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
It looks like something I could do.
Back Monday morning at 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Very good day to you. 0161 228 6655. You got something to say? 2255. You got something to? It's all right. I just read the number 6 whilst I was speaking. I'm doing two things at once. I shouldn't read and speak at the same time. But there you are. I won't tell you what I was reading because it's not funny. But I will tell you this. I don't know why. A transsexual woman who set fire to her home dressed in combat gear and a gas mask and then refused to let the emergency services through the door was told today it may be many, many years before she's released from prison. I think it's because the gas mask didn't suit her. I'm not sure. 0161 228 2255. That's the number. We don't want to get that wrong. It's too embarrassing by far. If the NatWest goes belly up, will he have to pay them the £500,000 I owe him? Asks Gordon. You may not have to pay them, but I suspect you'll have to pay somebody. Yeah, well, yeah, because the bank goes bust, and then when the receiver moves in, he starts calling in all the debts, doesn't he? So every chance. Rick from Cheadle says, I briefly heard on your programme today that energy-saving light bulbs give out some sort of radiation or radio waves. I have a table lamp next to my chair. It's opposite the television. Every time I switch on the lamp when the telly is on, the settings on the TV box top set, cable set and the like, go haywire. Programmes, volume, etc. all change. I'd be interested to hear if anyone else has had this problem and why it happens. Oh dear. That I don't know why it happens, but it would appear from one of the newspapers today, indeed more than one, it would appear that energy-saving light bulbs, it's in most of the papers, but energy-saving light bulbs give off ultraviolet radiation. Now, ultraviolet radiation itself is harmful, but rather like arsenic, a tiny weensy bit won't do you any harm, otherwise you'd die when you're at an egg. So that bit of it, there's no skin, so I don't want you to go into panic, but they give off this UV light. Well, light is just a radio wave of one particular frequency. So they give off this ultraviolet ray, this ultraviolet signal, if you like, and maybe that's what's doing your telly or your telly controller. Because they work on, you know, your button, everybody has a different name for it, the zapper. Well, that works on doesn't it? One of them UV lights, so maybe it's that, maybe it's just interfering. I've no idea. Does it happen to you? Several years ago, I had to take my dad to the dental hospital in Liverpool. It was short notice, as the bus hadn't turned up to take him. This is Jesse. My dad lost the use of his left hand side of his body over 10 years ago due to a stroke, and my mum was also in poor health, so they had one of these disabled parking permits. We arrived at the hospital. There wasn't much room to park at the front of the hospital, and in order to get me dad out the car, he had to be on the roadside, otherwise he can't be transferred to his chair. I was also about 9 inches over the zigzag lines for the ambulance entrance, but I thought it'd be okay as I had the permit. My dad was in a state about his appointment, so I was quick as I could getting him inside to his appointment. Unfortunately, we were given the runaround when we got in, and my mum got herself worked up as well. I was just on my way out when I heard my name called over the tannoy, saying that I needed to move my car. When I got there with my mum, there were 2 motorcycle policemen waiting for me and naturally thought something was terribly wrong. I asked the officers what was the matter, and they replied that I was committing a parking offence by the way I was parked. I apologised and explained about my dad's condition and how difficult it was to get him in and out on the curbside, and I'd not intended to be as long as I had. I was also concerned that I'd never had a ticket before, to which the officer replied that it was about time you had one then. He then continued to explain that a disability permit did not give you the right to break the law by parking on zigzag lines the wrong way round. I accepted all of this and the ticket that was offered. What I couldn't accept was that 2 highly visible police officers using bully boy tactics and leaving 2 elderly people embarrassed and in tears. It was awful to see the look of humiliation on my dad's face as we struggled to get him in the car. The policeman didn't hang around to help. Well, it's a sad tale, and frankly, our police officers, some of them, but not the majority by all means, are discourteous, and I think it does them no credit at all. Even if he's locking you up, even if he's giving you a ticket, a police officer is still a public servant, and the public servant should... I know that sometimes they have to take out the truncheons and crack somebody on the back of the shoulders with it. I know they have to deal with some of the filth of our society, but a police officer ought, most of the time, to remain courteous. Don't look at me. I know, I too am some sort of public servant, and perhaps I ought to as well, but it's slightly different. I don't expect you to obey my laws. Well, actually, now I think about it... Yeah, never mind. I'll be back tomorrow, of course, for breakfast. I hope you can join us then. But thanks for reading my email about Blu-ray, blah, blah, blah. With regards to the Cod Wars, when peace broke out, was it known as the Cod Peace? On that note, I say have a good weekend. See you tomorrow.
Will you Reiki your pets? Meet the woman who can Reiki